Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. I'm actually Henry Applebaum, the president and CEO of the company. My colleague Gene is here as well. So if afterwards anyone is interested, we're both available. But I'm here to talk to you about our laser system that destroys tumors. And our first application is breast tumors. And before I get into it, we're at a pretty exciting time in the company. We recently got our CE mark, so we're approved in Europe and ready to go commercial upon funding. Plus, we actually got switched to an expedited path by FDA. So we have a near-term track to get onto the market in the US as well. So some exciting things are coming up for us. But let's take a step back and think about what this means. Our first application, as I said, is in breast tumors. Think about a woman getting a diagnosis of breast cancer. It's a pretty major diagnosis. It means she's going to need surgery. Lumpectomy is the most common type of surgery. Going to an OR under anesthesia, a certain level of cutting, scarring in all cases, and then a week or more before she feels like herself. The real sad part is a quarter to half of those women have to go back and do it again because they didn't get it all the first time. I actually went through this with my own mom, who had to go back for a second procedure because she had positive margins. This is what we're changing, and this is how we're going to improve the treatment of breast cancer. Imagine going to a procedure room instead, where you're far more effective using a needle instead of a knife. You're going to get that tumor far more often in the first pass. It's all under local anesthetic. We close with a bandage, not sutures. The woman can get off the table and go exactly back to what she was doing. And we think the payers are going to love this too, because we drop the cost roughly in half. So it really is the whole idea of improving outcomes and lowering costs. Now, is this important? Well, it doesn't take too many degrees of separation to know someone who's had an impact from breast cancer. But right now we're focused on the European and the US markets. And when you look at the lumpectomies being done today, that could be done with our laser today, it's over 1 million procedures between the US and Europe. And that includes both malignant and benign tumors that go to surgery. Given that we expect an ASP for our kit, it's a razor blade business where most of the revenue is from selling the sterile disposable kit containing the materials you need for each procedure. We expect the ASP on that to be between $2,000 and $2,400, so that translates into over a $2 billion market potential. Again, the rest of the world would roughly double that size. So what you see here is our system. On the left is the console that houses the laser and the computer, but where it really comes down to it is in the upper right you see our probes. One probe delivers the laser energy and a saline drip to the center of the tumor. Lasers have a history of losing efficiency because they char. We eliminate that charring by delivering that saline drip, which also improves heat transfer efficiency. But the real key is that parallel probe, which has multiple temperature sensors on it, and that allows you true parametric control. It's well understood at what temperature tissue dies. This gives you real-time control of monitoring as well as what's going on during the procedure. And again, there's multiple aspects of these that are covered by our IP. We have a very extensive IP portfolio. This will give you an idea how it works. You would localize the tumor with ultrasound, just like in a biopsy. You place the laser probe, just like a biopsy. We have a probe guide that helps position the probe with the temperature sensors where it's supposed to be at the periphery. The screen is what you would see during the procedure. Green, you're approaching the treatment zone. Yellow, you're in it. And red, you've exceeded it. When you hit the target temperatures, the system automatically shuts off. You cannot overtreat. And that's, we think, one of the reasons why we've now done this hundreds of times. We have never had a serious adverse event. So it's a very safe procedure. Here's how we verified it. This is an MR where you see on the left a 10 millimeter tumor before treatment. The right is after treatment. What looks like a cavity is actually filled with dead tissue that the body will resorb and remodel just like it would any other dead tissue. And at the end of the day, that's going to look almost like normal tissue. And what you don't see is any deformity in the contour of the breast. Had this been surgery, up to a third of the women have enough deformity to justify reconstruction. all of them would have a high level of scarring and opacity where that was done that interferes with detection or recurrence. We don't. And those are very key things. So not just that the woman can look at her annual mammogram and feel good, but the fact that, like, for example, as I said with my mom, every time she sees a new radiologist, they want to do a biopsy. And she goes, no, that's my scar. That won't happen here. And as I said, we outperform surgery. There was a large meta-analysis done a couple of years ago covering over 7,000 subjects that showed a 32% positive margin. That means a 68% success rate in that first pass. We're not the only ones who know this. The American Society of Breast Surgeons has recognized this. They have set a goal to get that success rate up to 80% by next year. We already and have always exceeded that goal with all comers. We think we can do even better, but there's only so much more you can do. But we've already proven, and actually Europe in their approval accepted a superiority analysis. So what we've done is we've taken a procedure from the operating room, moved it to a procedure room, made it far better for the patient, far faster for the physician, and again, closing with a bandage or sutures. Which would you want? One comment I'll make at the bottom, there's data that indicates that thermal ablation induces an immunotherapeutic response. We've actually done some preclinical work with very promising results. We actually have a plan in place that we think can prove it out. And just imagine for a moment if with all of our other benefits, we also could say we leave the woman with an anti-tumor immune response. One comment I'll say, now the N is too small to say anything definitive, but we have the women out about a little over 4.5 years from our last study. The recurrence rates are about half of what you would normally expect. So again, the N is too small, but it's nice to have the trend in your direction. So we have a product that has far better efficacy, far less side effects. We've proven the safety. The patients love this. They just really look on this as a walk in the park compared to surgery. And again, having the costs reduced will help with the payers. I urge you to go to our website and look at some of the videos. We've actually also quantified. We use a health-related quality of life survey to show quantitatively functional scores go up versus surgery, symptomatic scores go down. But when you see the qualitative aspect of this and the reaction from the women, you know you have a product and you know that you'll see adoption. We've seen it with our doctors. There's sort of a one procedure learning curve, and it's more about comfort than skill. Once they try it, they like it. So where are we today? As I said, we're ready to go commercial. We've received our CE mark in Europe, and there's actually existing reimbursement in Germany, Switzerland, and the private side of UK. So we could start to look to generate revenue next year. We already have the beginnings of a good key opinion leader group and actually have found it very easy to add to that. I mean, if we want a physician in one of our trials, we in essence have a 9 out of 10 chance of getting them. And actually that's why we do need to do a trial to get approved in the US. We'll actually use that in Europe because it's a great way to get some of the new key opinion leaders to give them that 1 or 2 procedure experience and then convert them over to commercial use. One thing I will say about FDA, you are probably familiar with the difference between PMA and 510K. We were always a PMA, got the pivotal trial IDE approved under PMA. Went to talk with FDA about some of the conditions there, and they actually did a deep data dive. It's about the only time I got a lucky break from FDA. And for those of you who work with them, you know that's rare, because they came back and they switched us to a 510K. That doesn't happen. That's based on quality of data, and basically said, do a confirmatory study under 510K and we'll put you on the market. Do what you did before, you get the same result, you're on the market. That's a pretty big measure. It's a 1-month primary endpoint. We think we can do that study in 18 months. It's less than a third of the size of what originally they were asking us to do. And again, every investigator that we had working with us before that we want to continue wants to continue with us as well. They're very excited about this. So financially, is there a payoff as an investor? We have a very extensive financial model behind this, but if there's one thing you should take away, in a market of this size, if we get 20% market share, we're not, after many years on the market, we're forecasting 20%. That's over a $500 million revenue stream. And this is a very high margin product. We have greater than 80% margins on that disposable kit. This actually has gotten some of the large guys very interested, and we're actually talking to several companies about a potential strategic relationships. And, and that could actually accelerate this model. In those discussions, I've been told, well, we think we could accelerate you a year or two over where you're thinking. So that's actually kind of exciting. We talked about a cost. I think all I'll say here is that, again, we have a very extensive model behind this, where this is based on U.S. data with a blend of both commercial and Medicare payers. Head-to-head, we're about a third less expensive than surgery. When you take into account clinical benefits, it drops it to roughly about half. And again, one thing, we've talked with half a dozen medical directors in different payer organizations. It's one thing to say you spend less money, but when you're doing fewer procedures, it's really obvious to them. And they actually can look at their own data. Actually, when we talked to United Healthcare, the medical director forgot about Novian for a minute and was like, my God, I have a surgical procedure being redone almost half the time. Then you might ask, so where do we stand in the field? I'm in a fortunate position that we've been recognized independently by Frost & Sullivan. They now twice have done an analysis of the field in North America and in Europe, where they looked at this space and they determined that Novalace was best in space and Novian was following best practices. We can peel this onion as much as you want, but you'll see that we have advantages in performance and technology. But at the end of the day, it comes down to data. We've put the best data up there and have the easiest system to use. We've also been recognized by Red Herring recently. And again, when you look at a company like ours, can you do what you're saying to do? Well, history is a prediction of that. Everything we've been funded for, we've achieved. That includes getting our European approval, building the IP portfolio, building a commercial-ready system. So where we are today, we're raising 15 to 20 million to go commercial in Europe, start generating revenue, get that trial done and get on the market in the US, and actually bring our second indication, which would be a liver to market and push forward on the immunotherapy aspect. Again, team, I welcome you to meet the whole team. Gene actually helped launch LASIK in the US. We have experience taking things from the bench all the way to market. I spent a number of years at Amgen and then helped start a company out of Amgen. This is a group that's actually been there, done that, and I also stand by what we've achieved together. So basically, we're going to be the first thermal ablation device approved for focal treatment of breast cancer. We have a product that's better than what's out there, better for the patient, far less expensive. Other than that, we don't have many advantages. And we're ready to go as soon as we get funding. So with that, I'll open it up for questions and thank you for your time.